Hey, welcome to the channel, More Dirt, More Distance. On this episode, I've installed a roof rack on the Gladiator, more specifically, a half roof rack from JCR Off-Road. I had to go with the half rack because I have the best top sun rider installed. I wanted a rack because I needed a little bit more space to be able to store things. I learned really quickly that a 5-foot truck bed fills up so fast, and just have another place where I could put the max tracks, a gearbox, would really free up the space that I needed while I was trying to get ready for these camping trips. So I'm going to walk you through the install and I'll talk about how everything went. The rack needs to be assembled before it is mounted to the Gladiator. It was over 90 degrees in my garage, so I decided to assemble the rack where there was AC. A lot of hardware was provided, but I only needed the 1/4-inch button heads, washers, and flange nuts. I started by grabbing the side rails. Make sure they are pointed in the same direction. The front is the end with the longer angle and teardrop shape hole. Three crossbars are provided with the half rack. Make sure the T-slot holes are facing up and all on the same side. There are 3 slots on the side rails. The crossbars are secured to the side rails using these slots. There are 2 holes in the ends of the crossbar for the bolts. Use the 1/4-inch button head bolt and washer to secure the crossbar to the side rail. Don't tighten the bolts completely so you can adjust the crossbar location later. It's easier to do one side at a time, so finish up on this side before moving on to the other. Like and subscribe if this video is helpful so you don't miss my next install. This is how it should look after the crossbars are attached. Make sure the side rails are pointing in the same direction and the T-slots on the crossbars are facing up and all on the same side. Now the front fairing can be attached to the rack. The front fairing has the JCR logo on the left side. The fairing fits in between the side rails. There are 2 slots on the side rails and 2 slots on the fairing. Line them up and use the button heads, washers, and flange nuts to attach the front fairing to the side rails. Don't tighten the bolts completely so you can make adjustments once the rack is on the roof. Now the rear fairing can be attached to the back. The long flat edge is the bottom of the fairing. Just like the front, the rear fairing fits in between the side rails. There are 2 slots on the side rails and 2 slots on the fairing. Line them up and use the button heads, washers, and flange nuts to attach the fairing to the side rail. Don't tighten the bolts completely so you can make adjustments once the rack is on the roof. Grab the provided weather stripping, run it along the front edge of the front fairing. Cut off the excess, but do not throw it away. It will be used on the rear. Apply firm pressure when attaching the weather stripping. Attach the leftover piece of weather stripping to the rear fairing. There are 4 mounts and 4 outer mounting brackets. There are 2 holes on the corner of each of the side rails. That is where the mounts are attached. Use the button heads, washers, and flange nuts to secure the mount to the rack. Don't tighten the bolts completely so you can make adjustments once the rack is on the roof. Once all 4 mounts are attached, it is ready to be mounted on the roof. It's better to have someone help you, but my roof is already scratched and marked up, so a few more doesn't matter. The mount should sit in the drip rail. I placed the rear mount at the end of the drip rail so there is plenty of room for the Sunrider to fold back. The outer mounting bracket secures the rack to the roof. The smaller bag of hardware is used to mount the rack. The instructions weren't very clear, but I believe the long bolts are used on the top of the bracket. Secure the outer mounting bracket to the rack. Put some thread locker on the bolts used on the side of the bracket. Now any final adjustments can be made and all the bolts tightened. An 11mm socket helps when you're trying to tighten the bolts. Don't forget to adjust and tighten the crossbars also. Everything is tight and secure. Now let's see what it looks like in the daylight. The installation went really well. I didn't have any issues at all. The rack is solid and well built. I took it out for a test drive. There wasn't any excess wind noise or anything like that, which is great. With the half rack, there isn't a ton of space, but I knew that before I bought it. But it's nice to have another place where you can store some gear, maybe some max tracks, a gearbox, other recovery equipment, but still be able to remove your freedom panels, or if you're like me, be able to fold back your best top Sunrider. So being able to get that storage and still have access to removing the roof is really what I was looking for. I would recommend getting the JCR Off-Road roof rack, especially the half rack if you're not looking to put a ton of stuff up on your roof. I don't have any complaints about the installation, and so far it's holding up really well. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like and subscribe